Cześć kochani, witam Was bardzo serdecznie w naszym słuchowisku, gdzie, jak mam nadzieję, historie opowiedziane przez bohaterów audycji będą dla Was jakiegoś rodzaju inspiracją. Dziś, po wstępie, jako że mamy gościa z zagranicy, w audycji właściwej przeskoczymy na język angielski. Tak, żeby nie przedłużać, zapraszam Was do wstępu, a później do właściwej audycji. To jest punkt zwrotny. Gościem dzisiejszej audycji jest Simon Bugge.
So, welcome everyone after intro. Welcome, Simon.
Thank you very much.
Before we start interview, I would like to invite all of you guys to close your eyes for 1 minute and I will conduct meditation. Please sit in straight open position. It is do not cross your arms, your legs. Calm down. Breathe freely. Now inhale. Hold for a while. And exhale. Again. Inhale. Hold for a while. And exhale. And now imagine you are standing by the sea. It is foggy. You can't see anything. But the wind starts to blow and the fog is fading away. What is the first thing you see in the horizon? Name it in your heart and capture this moment. Now one more time. Inhale. Hold for a while. And exhale. Open your eyes. So Simon, introduce yourself briefly and tell me what was or what is the turning point in your life.
Sure, so a brief introduction of myself. My name is Simon Bugge. I am a Swedish Norwegian living in China. So I've spent 1/3 of my life in Sweden, 1/3 in Norway, and now about 1/3 in China. What I'm passionate about and what I've always been doing is I like to work with people who are very creative. I like to work with people who are able to create amazing products, amazing services, and I like to help to spread those services to most people. So, in short, I like to work with sales and marketing and try to bring ideas and concepts that I feel like I believe in to a larger group of people. Currently, I'm working at a company called Orkla, so where I'm responsible for sales and marketing for the China market for a brand called Jordan, where we're selling toothbrushes for kids. A turning point in my life. It's a good question. There's been quite a few. I think one of the big turning points was when I finished high school. I had a quite tough time in high school. And I took the chance to move to China. And I got an advice from my dad, which I really took to heart. That changed a lot for me. And that is, you are allowed to decide who you are and what you want to be. Nobody else is allowed to dictate that. And before that, I've always sort of like followed what other people were thinking and basically tried to mimic what they were feeling. And after that, I started saying more, no, I'm the one who decides who I want to be. I don't care how other people feels about it. And that was a big change for me.
Besides that, what you mentioned that you tried and learned to speak yourself. What was the biggest challenge during the high school time you need to go over maybe in your adulthood?
Without going into too much, during my high school, I had a period where I was suffering from a lot of depression, and I was going through quite a tough time. And that was what I was sort of trying to get over. And during that phase, I started falling behind in school and so on and so on. And a lot of sort of teachers started to approach me and thinking like I was not very smart. And that became sort of the reality in my own head, that no, I'm not a very smart person, I'm not a very capable person. So the big challenge for me was to turn that around and decide, no, I'm the one who decides if that is true or not. And that was the big challenge for a while, but I came in, I took everything as it is and just tried to join whatever I felt like. And after a while, you start building your own confidence again.
What was the first idea that you actually decided to move to China? Because for, let's say, Europeans, especially for Scandinavians, this is not obvious direction to go.
Adventure. I wanted something different. I had finished high school. I didn't know what I wanted to study or what I wanted to do. So I decided to take 1 year in China to just explore and have fun. And I took a language course / culture course. And then that was 2011. So how long is that? Now that's 14 years ago. So yeah, after that I've sort of been stuck.
What was the difference between, let's say, Scandinavian country you grew up and China for the very first time? What was the greatest culture shock you need to overcome while coming to China? Or what maybe was the reverse culture shock the first time you came back to Europe?
I think it's very hard to look into the culture shock aspect because you have a lot of these sort of like day-to-day things that become difficult. For example, how do you take the bus? That's a sort of a culture shock. The food is a culture shock. So you have a lot of these more like day-to-day activities that are definitely there. But I think the big part is that these sort of fundamental values are quite different and the way people think are very different. And that is something that takes you years and years to unpack and to understand. And I would quite honestly say I still haven't fully understood these differences and probably maybe never will. But that is sort of something that slowly comes up on you and you slowly start to realize that. And that goes exactly the same when I went back to Europe to work for a while, that the way people think about the world is very different. In China, people are very fluid in their thinking. Speaking in very general terms, so it's not everybody, people here are more clear that things will change, that the world is fluid and things are not solid or in a state of non-change. While in Europe, people are more used to things being, this is the way it is, this is the way how it's always going to be. And I think that makes people less receptive to when things are changing. They struggle to adapt. While in China, people are so open to change, so they always are adapting. I think that is sort of a big thing that you notice after a while.
What was the greatest challenge for you to overcome, but during maybe the entire lifetime? Besides the depression and the high school period.
I don't know. There's been a lot. But I think it's sort of my own choices that have put me in a lot of the positions. Because I've always been very hungry and very aggressive and very... If I want to try something, I'll try it. If I fail, I fail. If I fail and fall flat on my head, that is fine. I'll get back up and I'll try again. And that put you into a position where you do have a lot of hardships. So I've had companies that have crashed. I've had people who I thought were my friends stab me in the back. I've been to court quite a few times. So I'm not really sure where to start, but are you looking for any specific or do you have anything in mind?
Something that you feel that if other people have similar experience, it can help them kind of maybe understand themselves or help go through.
I think any kind of difficult experience is very hard to grow in the moment. You don't realize you are growing before after you come through it. And sometimes it takes years after you come through it to realize how much you actually grown during the experience. Because when you're in it, a lot of times it feels really, really hopeless. So one experience that I think helped me grow a lot was that I had a company that I was part of where it turned out that the company wasn't what it seemed. We had to shut down. And I made the decision that I had to deliver these news to all of our suppliers, all of the people I had brought on board, all of the people who I sort of had been responsible for somehow bringing into this. And I had a list of 27 companies and CEOs or top leaders I had to call and inform them that, sorry, this project is dead, it's not going to happen, this is not going to be anything more. So it's an absolute awful experience having to try to call all of these people, and I dreaded it for days to do so. But I made up my mind that I should do it because I felt like it's my responsibility, I have to inform them, I have to come clean. And I did. I called through all 27 of them in, I think it was over 3 days. Decided to not email it, decided to do it over phone. And about 5 of these companies actually asked me to come in and sit down and then meet with them face to face without knowing what was happening. And I was, heart was pumping, it was horrible. Out of those 5, 4 of them offered me work just because I had decided to do the right thing. And they basically said, it's okay that the project fails. Nobody's blaming anyone for it, but you stood up and took responsibility for it and you came clean with it. And that's something they valued a lot. Now, that experience is not something that I think in the moment when I was there, I didn't consider it too much because I was sort of just in survival mode. A company I was relying on to hopefully give me a salary crashed. I didn't have money. I was starving. And then all of a sudden I got 4 consulting gigs and just worked. But when I reflect back on it, I think the decision I made in the moment to know I'm going to stand up for it, I'm going to call each one of them and I'm going to talk to them face to face was a big decision. Like, I'm not backing down. I'm not trying to hide behind or make any excuses for this failure. These are the facts. I was partly responsible for crashing, and that helps.
What is the greatest output of your experiences, and what are lessons learned throughout the life? What do you believe, what was, as we name it, lesson learned? Something that you feel that was aimed to you to understand? Or maybe do you have still something that you believe maybe there is to make it lesson learned? You know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Yes, no, definitely. I had one, and that is that I am very trusting of people. So as long as people treat me kind of nice, I want to trust them. And that have resulted sometimes in bad things happening. Because not everybody is nice, and I don't always think it's their fault, but shit happens. And that has kind of put my core belief of trusting people into question a lot of times. And in the beginning, I thought, okay, I cannot be so trusting. I can't trust people. I need to, protect myself. But that is something that I'll, for a while, also learned that is not a good idea. And that's not a way I want to live, because it doesn't make me happy. It doesn't make me enjoy life. So then I had to go back again and think, okay, then what is it I have to do? And right now where I'm at, I cannot be so naive. I cannot be so all in at once. I need to stand up and put me first, but I still decide to trust people rather than distrust people. So I do still put a lot of trust into people, but I won't jump into everything at once. I'll hold back and be less naive on it. I haven't figured it out entirely, but slowly I'm getting there.
I will now ask, how would you address a message to you from the past, maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, what could be? And what message would you have to your future yourself? If you have, of course, the one.
If I was looking back, I'd say one message that I should do would be prioritize yourself more. And I don't want it to sound like something selfish, but I was always very much all in trying to help people.
Like people pleaser.
People pleaser, but also I thought if I just keep working hard and try to do things very well, it will work. But what ended up happening is a lot of times is I undervalued myself and I put myself last. And that ended up hurting people probably more than it actually helped, because I was not in a stage where I was ready to step up and actually help in a useful way. And I was tired, I was exhausted, I was low on energy, and I didn't show up in a way where I was actually helpful. And that is something that I'm not there as well. I'm working on it, but to show up and put yourself first so that you can show up for other people when they need you. That is something that I would really encourage myself to do if I could send a message back 10 years in time. And also cut off people you don't want faster. Don't try to get people to change. Accept the fact this person is like that. That's not bad, good, it's not bad, it's nothing. Cut them off if you do not feel like that's something you want in your life. Future. It's very hard. I have a lot of plans for the future.
We'll jump yet to there. We'll jump to the plans because I have yet questions.
If I were gonna send a message to myself in the future, I would really say I hope you don't get stuck. I see a lot of people get into careers or jobs where they're comfortable and they get stuck. I don't want to become stuck.
And actually now touching your future plans, because if this is not a private topic, I can say you are engaged with Chinese.
Yeah.
How do you see, because this is also for the audience who maybe are the younger one, like in high school, they have this idea, oh, I would like to study abroad, or maybe I would like to go work abroad. How do you see building, let's say, international relationship, also intercultural relationship from your background, and what would you recommend to people who have, let's say, similar idea, but maybe never tried before?
Are you thinking more like romantic or business or?
Both.
Quite different. Pick one. Let's start with one.
Let's start. Oh, let's be romantic.
Okay, start romantic. I think it's important to know what you're after early on. And also I think it's very important to have a good understanding of the culture. So if you are in two different cultures, there can be a lot of different values that are not compatible. Now, my wife happens to be very international. She has lived in the UK for 14 years. So she is quite familiar with like Europe and our culture, and also her parents have lived abroad. But if you're dating someone who is, take China for example, is local, who haven't really had that exposure, you're gonna have a lot of things where you're gonna disagree very, very heavily on, and you won't know that they are there, and you won't know that they're coming unless you understand the culture. So I would say, like, if that is something you are serious about, and if you find somebody who is from a different culture, you need to take time to understand the culture, the reason behind why things are the way they are, and try to really be interested in the culture part. Because I've seen a few cases where there's been sort of people from Europe or from the US who come here and they find a local partner and they don't understand this. It can turn really bad because a lot of times, sadly enough, especially Europeans and Americans, feel like their culture is sort of the superior. And then they become neglective of the other person's culture, the values, the things that they think are important. And they see them as, oh, no, this is wrong, you should follow the way that we are doing things. But the reason behind the culture, the values and ideas is there's always a background and a reason for it. It is not just made up. So you need to understand this whole process, and that will help you a lot.
And from the business side, what, especially after your experience here in like building a international relationship, including like founders breakfast, what could be your recommendation?
Understand your biggest currency is your time. Spending time with people is the best thing you can do to build relationships. Everything else is kind of just tools to get things done. Contract, money, resources, that's just tools. The only thing that you can actually put into a relationship to build it properly is time and presence.
Basically, that's it from my side. Thank you, audience, for listening to us. And thank you, Simon, for accepting invitation. I hope in the future, when you listen back to this message, and maybe you listen to the message you left for yourself in 10 years or 20 years ahead, you'll be proud of yourself.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tak więc, kochani, dziękuję Wam za wysłuchanie dzisiejszej audycji. Mam nadzieję, że historia Simona była dla Was inspirująca. Oczywiście czekam na Wasze komentarze. A tymczasem słyszymy się w następnym odcinku audycji Punkt Zwrotny. Trzymajcie się. Pozytywnych wibracji. Cześć.